like I'm floating through the air. The pain I felt is paid for, all is said and done. Oh,
My name is David, and this is my 1999 BMW M Roadster. And I'm going to give you 10 reasons as to why you should own this car in 2024, and I think that they're pretty good reasons. I think that this car has a lot of reasons to buy it, and the 10th reason that you should own an M Roadster in 2024 is because it was James Bond's car. And who doesn't want to drive James Bond's car? So BMW did somewhat of a genius marketing tactic back in 1995 when they debuted the BMW Z3, and they gave it to James Bond for his 1995 movie GoldenEye. And he drove Natalia around on their summer vacation, and he had missiles coming out of the headlights, and he had all these cool gadgets, and it was just an awesome way to debut, the Z3, which at the time was pivotal for BMW. They were competing against the Mazda Miata. They were competing against a growing share in the marketplace that a lot of people wanted these two-seat roadsters. And I think unveiling that car as James Bond's car is just awesome. And the 9th reason is rarity. Like I said before, you see a lot of E36 M3s on the road. You see a lot of E46 M3s on the road because that M3 and that 3 Series is obviously very coveted, but you don't really see very many M Roadsters. They're a little bit more rare. This was, the Z3 was actually the first car that was exclusively manufactured out of Germany in their plant in North Carolina. And again, you don't see them very much. So there's a very tight-knit community of people that own these cars. They love to share parts with one another and give each other kind of good value on parts that they've collected over the years. And again, that rarity factor is something that I really like. And the 8th reason would be the analog driving experience that this car gives you. Especially nowadays when, we live in a world that's full of unnecessary electronics and buttons that come in cars nowadays, and infotainment systems and things that distract you from what we really love to do, which is drive. This car is all about driving. There's no unnecessary clutter or buttons on the steering wheel. The HVAC system is just knobs. There's no buttons. You don't have to go into an infotainment system to turn on your AC or turn on your heated seats. There's a very simplistic layout here, and you've got a steering wheel, you've got a 5-speed manual, you've got a limited slip diff, and you've got a beautiful S52 up front. So just in a world, again, where cars are getting further and further away from that analog driving experience, the M Roadster has that in a very big way. The 7th reason I would say that you should own an M Roadster is the looks. Now, obviously looks are subjective, but to again give you a little history lesson, this car was designed by Joji Nagashima, who's a legendary BMW designer. He designed some of the best looking BMWs. He designed the E39 5 Series, which in my personal opinion is the best looking 5 Series. He designed the E90 and the E92 3 Series chassis. And he also designed the Z3, which obviously the M Roadster is based off of. And Joji Nagashima himself said that his personal favorite design that he's the most proud of is the Z3. And, looking at all of the awards that this car won, from Car and Driver magazine to Top Gear back in the day, based on its design and its looks, I think that speaks for itself as well. And, you've got these big, wide hips. You've got this big, kind of aggressive stance on the road. And you've got this really funky two-tone interior, which is awesome. And it's just, to me, it's a timeless design, and it's very unique. You don't really see anything that looks like this nowadays, which I think is awesome. The 6th reason to own an M Roadster would be the fun factor, right? So again, like I said, this is an E36 M3, but it's got a shorter wheelbase. So you've still got the 5-speed, you still have the limited slip diff and all of the power from the S52, but you've got that all compacted into this short little wheelbase. So it's a little bit snappier. You have to, be quick with your hands because this car will bite at times. And I think it just teaches you a lot as a driver. It teaches you a lot about car control, and you really have to kind of be on top of it and drive this car, which I think is awesome. And again, all of that packaged into this small little Roadster body where you can put the roof back is just awesome. Which leads me into the fifth reason, which is these cars are really easy to work on. It's got a really big engine bay, so you can, get around the motor and you can work on things, and it's not too much of a hassle, which again, compared to the Porsche Boxster, is not the story. And if you have, some basic mechanical aptitude and the ability to watch a YouTube video and follow along with a tutorial, it's really not too difficult to work on these things and keep up with them and maintain them in such a way that, again, you can track drive them and you can kind of beat the crap out of them and keep up with the maintenance, which I think is an awesome, again, value proposition. And the fourth reason, and I've brought this up a couple times already, but I think it's very important, is the S52 that comes in the M Roadster. Now, to give you a little history lesson, the M Roadster was made from 1998 to 2002. And from 98 to 2000, the M Roadster came with the S52 out of the E36 M3, and then later models came with the S54 that came out of the E46 M3. Both are great motors. My personal choice would be the S52, and that mostly comes down to reliability and durability. These don't have the rod bearing issues that came with the S54, and you can just bring them to the track and enjoy them and not really have to worry too much about them. You could beat the crap out of it, and it'll just keep going, and it gives great power. Like I said before, very usable torque, and to have all of that packaged into this little Roadster body is just so much fun. Third reason I would say is because it's simply the best Roadster, right? So if you look at the comparable Roadsters that are out there, you've got the Honda S2000, which is an awesome car. But it's got a 4-cylinder that only has 160 foot-pounds of torque. This inline-six has 236 pound-feet of torque. And it doesn't really have that daily usability given the low torque number. You have to rev them out, and you have to kind of constantly stay in that rev band, where these I think are just a little bit more enjoyable with that torque and that S52 that you get. And that leads me into the second reason, which is the type of people that typically own these cars. I think that the E36 M3 is one that's kind of transferred hands a lot. Generally, it's had quite a lot of owners. They're generally daily driven because they can be, because you actually have a decently sized trunk and back seats. Where the M Roadsters, you find that they are typically owned by older gentlemen. They've typically been owned for quite a long time, and they've been kept in the garage. They're not driven in the winter time for obvious reasons, because why would you want to drive a Roadster in the winter time? And they're just generally not as neglected. So it's really easy to find some of these that are in really, really great shape. The first and to me the most important reason to own an M Roadster in 2024 is the rest of the marketplace and kind of where this sits in the marketplace. So just to give you a quick idea of what this car is, it's essentially a Roadster E36 M3. It's an E36 M3 front subframe with an E30 rear subframe and suspension setup. So it's essentially an E36 Ti with a Roadster body on it and an S52. And if you're looking at the BMW marketplace of what kind of car you can own to bring to the track and have a good time in, you've got the E36 M3, which is around that high teens to low 20 price point nowadays. You've got the E46 M3, which is definitely going to be into the 20s. And this sits in a really nice sweet spot where you can find these for low teens. I would say generally the market for these cars is around the $11,000 to maybe $15,000 or $16,000 price point, obviously depending on miles and how clean your example is. And given where the E36 is and the E46, and given that you have all of the goodies that come out of the E36 M3, like the limited slip diff, the 5-speed manual, and that kind of analog driving feel, it's just a great proposition for value. So thanks for watching, guys. That's the BMW M Roadster. Take it easy.